What was moving through the sky over Arkansas that no one could identify? This is a mystery that remains unresolved to this day.
Взяли, понимаешь, и чего-то там запускают.
In 2012, Terry Lovelace sat quietly in his doctor's office waiting for the results of an X-ray. Earlier that day, he had felt a sudden, sharp pain shoot through his leg. He lost his balance and fell. When the doctor came back into the room, he looked puzzled. Holding up the X-ray, he pointed to something strange. Buried deep inside Terry's right leg was a tiny square object about the size of a fingernail. The doctor said he had never seen anything like it before. He asked Terry if he had ever been in a serious accident or undergone surgery. Terry said no. But then a memory came rushing back, something he had spent 40 years trying to forget. It was the terrifying experience he claimed happened at Devil's Den State Park. For decades, Terry kept the story to himself because he believed nobody would ever accept it without proof. He stayed silent, convinced people would think he was crazy. But the proof had apparently been inside him the entire time. A strange metallic object was embedded in his leg, and according to Terry, it was not made by humans. So let's rewind to where it all began.
You know, this is a little bit hard to verbalize, but it was more of a vibe. There was a vibe to it that was just spooky.
June 1977. Terry and his close friend Toby are serving as medics in the Air Force, stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base not far from Kansas City, Missouri. They're young, fit, and ready for a break. They decide on a 4-day camping trip, a chance to unwind. After a 6-hour drive, they roll into Devil's Den State Park, find a secluded patch of ground in an area that's technically off limits, and pitch their tent. The agenda is blissfully simple. Grill some food, knock back a few beers, and lie back to watch the stars. Around 9 that night, the two friends are sitting around the campfire, talking and eating, when Toby's entire body tenses up. He shushes Terry mid-sentence. "Do you hear that?" he asks. Terry cocks his head and listens. "I don't hear anything." "Exactly," Toby says. The woods around them have gone dead quiet. No chirping insects, no owl calls, not even the rustle of leaves. It's as though the whole forest is holding its breath. Toby lifts his arm and points toward the sky. 3 faint lights are up there, moving together in a tight formation. As they watch, the lights intensify, rotating around a central axis and picking up speed. They swell until they're blocking out whole constellations. Terry forces a nervous chuckle and says, "I think that thing is coming our way. It looks like it's going to pass right over us." And then it's not in the distance anymore. The lights belong to an enormous triangular craft, and in a blink, it's suspended directly above their campsite, blotting out the heavens. Terry later described it as looking up at the belly of a structure the size of a city block, humming low and steady. Now you'd expect 2 grown men to lose their minds with fear. Instead, Terry feels a wave of unnatural calm wash through him, almost like being chemically sedated. He's not terrified. He's peaceful, completely at ease. That eerie serenity holds as the craft descends a little lower. A column of brilliant white light erupts from its underside, bathing the entire camp in a harsh glow for maybe 30 seconds. Then everything plunges back into blackness. Moments later, a razor-thin blue laser begins to sweep the area. It passes over the tent, the dying fire, and finally over Terry and Toby themselves. The beam meticulously scans their bodies before vanishing, and the darkness returns. Toby breaks the silence with a flat, "Well, show's over." Incredibly, the 2 men retreat into their tent, and as if nothing unusual had happened, they fall asleep almost instantly. But their rest doesn't last. Terry's next moment of awareness is not inside the tent. He's lying on his back, completely naked, on a cold, rubberized floor. His clothes are folded on his chest. A deep, Rhythmic vibration thrums through the air, which carries a chemical tang that burns the back of his throat. Panic surges when he tries to move and finds his muscles unresponsive. He's paralyzed, able only to shift his eyes and take in his surroundings. Somewhere nearby, a woman shrieks in terror. Terry prays he isn't next. As his vision adjusts, he realizes the space he's in is impossibly vast, more like a stadium than any compartment that could fit inside the triangular craft he saw hovering above the trees. On his right, at least 10 other people are stretched out motionless, awake but immobilized. Men, women, and even children. Some of them dart their eyes around in visible panic. Others stare vacantly upward, as if they've given up, silent tears sliding down their cheeks. Over on the left side of the chamber, a row of disc-shaped vehicles sits at the ready. The ceiling soars upward, maybe 5 stories high. Small floating transports, about the size of golf carts, zip through the space carrying what appear to be children from one station to another. Only they aren't children. Terry's mind recoils at the realization. These are small, gray-skinned beings with oversized black eyes. They wear matching flight suits, their arms long and spindly, their thin fingers moving with quick, mechanical precision. Gray aliens, straight out of the nightmares that other people describe. But here they are, working around him like busy technicians. Then a figure in a beige uniform walks past. No, not a figure. A person. A human being. The individual wears a beige outfit with orange rank markings, clearly part of the crew. He doesn't even glance at the captives. Terry's confusion deepens. Humans are serving alongside these creatures. Next, a different entity catches his attention. This one has chalky, pink-toned skin, stands around 6 feet tall, and shares some features with the smaller grays. As it passes, it locks eyes with Terry. In that instant, Terry feels an invasive presence rifling through his mind. His thoughts, his private memories, his deepest secrets. It's a complete psychic strip search, and he's utterly powerless to stop it. Before he can even process the violation, he's being lifted. Several of the small gray entities carry him down a hallway. To his right, he sees a series of glass tanks of varying dimensions. Most are empty, but a few contain hybrids, strange amalgamations of familiar Earth biology and something wholly alien. One tank, filled with a pinkish fluid, holds what looks like a newborn puppy, its eyes squeezed shut. As Terry's carried past, the little creature's eyes snap open. His heart hammers against his ribs. At the end of the corridor, they enter a domed white chamber. Everything, walls, furniture, instruments, is sterile white, gray, or stainless steel, reminiscent of a medical exam room. The Greys strip him of his clothing and place him on a table. For a fleeting second, Terry notices the surface is warm and thinks, well, at least they heated it. Then the sickening realization hits. The warmth is left over from the bodies that were on this table before him. 2 new beings step into the room. They tower nearly 9 feet tall and look like something between a praying mantis and a living nightmare. The Greys turn Terry onto his side, and the mantis creatures begin working on his lower back. The pain is indescribable. Terry screams, but no sound escapes his throat. His silent agony seems to irritate one of the insectoid figures. It pauses and tilts its huge head, fixing him with one of its enormous eyes. A voice, perfectly clear, sounds inside his skull. Why are you screaming? Stop screaming. You know we don't harm you. You know we return you. And that's exactly what they do. One of them reaches forward and taps his forehead with a green claw. Blackness swallows him whole. When consciousness flickers back, Terry and Toby are sprawled in the grass next to their car. Terry's first emotion isn't terror. It's irritation. The least they could have done was put us back in the tent, he thinks. And as if responding to his thought, about 6 of the gray beings materialize at the edge of his vision. They seize both men by their limbs, drag them across the damp ground, and heave them inside the tent. A suffocating stillness settles over everything. Terry tries to speak but can't summon the energy or courage. His vision swims, and he blacks out. He snaps awake again to blinding flashes of green light knifing through the tent fabric, stabbing at his eyes. Every joint in his body screams with soreness. Toby cracks open the tent flap, mumbling something Terry can't make out. The strobe-like pulses continue. Terry glances at his watch. It's frozen at midnight, but a small clock in the tent reads 3 a.m. He starts reaching for a flashlight, and Toby's hand shoots out, grabbing it and hissing at him to stay silent. It's only then that Terry notices the tears cutting tracks through the grime on Toby's cheeks. Outside, footsteps rustle around the camp. The two of them freeze, straining to listen. When the sounds finally cease, they peek out. Terry's heart nearly stops. Above the meadow hovers an enormous craft, easily the size of an office building turned on its side. Tiny windows dot its surface, and through them he can see silhouettes moving back and forth. Beneath the craft, scattered across the grass, are roughly a dozen small figures milling about. "Those aren't kids," Toby whispers, his voice cracking. "Not children, not human. They took us. They hurt us." He starts to cry again. Terry's mind is a jumble until the images begin flooding in. A brilliantly lit chamber, small gray workers, a giant insectoid, gleaming medical tools, and an overwhelming sensation of agony. He shoves the memories away, forcing himself not to spiral. A column of white light plunges from the craft, the small figures vanish into it, and the ship rises silently, pivots without a sound, and streaks over the horizon. Toby exhales as if he'd been holding his breath for hours. His face is swollen, sunburned, and Terry realizes his own skin is burned too. They're both covered in raised welts that look like insect bites. They don't even pack. They bolt to the car, leaving the campsite behind. Devil's Den shrinks in the rearview mirror as they race away. Back at the base, Terry drops Toby at his house and watches his friend stumble inside, dazed and hollow-eyed. When Terry finally gets home, his wife takes one look at him and drives him straight to the medical clinic. He tells the staff what he can about the strange lights, the burns, but he leaves out everything that happened between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. He knows if he describes the full horror, he'll be labeled delusional. The medical team runs a Geiger counter over him and confirms that his sunburn is actually radiation damage. His clothes are confiscated and sealed inside a biohazard bag. The next couple of days pass in a fog. Then, on the third night, a knock comes at the door of his hospital room. A nurse opens it, and two men stride in, flashing identification. Dark suits, grim expressions. They introduce themselves as agents from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and they need to speak with Sergeant Lovelace, alone. Terry pushes himself upright in the bed, staring at a tape recorder they've placed in front of him. He's only 22 years old, fresh off the most traumatic night of his life, and now he's being interrogated by OSI. One of the agents, a major, barks instructions at him. They want to know exactly what he saw out there. Terry sticks to the vague truth. Strange lights in the sky. But a cold suspicion crawls up his spine. He's certain they already know more, and that terrifies him more than the lights did. Could his own military be involved? An image bursts behind his eyes. Humans in military-style uniforms working shoulder to shoulder with aliens. The government knows. They've known. The major's voice jerks him back to the present. "Do you understand, Sergeant?" Terry nods numbly as the officer recites Article 31 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the military's version of reading him his rights. All Terry can manage is a quiet, "Yes, sir." They pressure him into signing a waiver giving OSI permission to search his house and his car, though it quickly becomes clear the searches have already happened. One of the agents, visibly furious, leans so close their faces nearly touch, accusing Terry of withholding critical information. He insists the Air Force knows Terry and Toby witnessed far more than just some lights, but Terry refuses to crack, especially about the abduction. At first, he'd been afraid they would send him to a psychiatric ward. Now, he's afraid of prison. He clings to his simple story and prays Toby is doing the same. Frustrated, the agents snatch up their recorder, toss a business card onto the blanket, and push more papers at him, insisting he sign without reading. Their final orders are chilling. Never speak of the lights or the incident again. If he recalls anything further, he is to contact them immediately, and he is never, under any circumstances, to contact Toby again. Soon after, Toby is transferred to a base in Japan, and the two friends never exchange another word. The trauma of that night, compounded by the interrogation, hardens into a lifelong silence. Terry buries the memory of Devil's Den so deep, he almost convinces himself it was a fever dream. The years roll on. He manages to build an impressive life, becomes an attorney, serves as an assistant attorney general, gets married, raises a family. Outwardly, everything is normal, but the PTSD clings to him like a shadow. Then 2012 arrives, and he stares at an X-ray of his leg. The buried horror comes roaring back. He decides to have the strange implants removed and to finally tell his story. People warn him this could be incredibly dangerous, and the danger, when it surfaces, doesn't come from the government. It comes from something far more menacing. When Terry starts speaking publicly about the 2012 discovery, backed by those X-ray images, his story gains a credibility that rattles certain doors. In 2017, he drifts off to sleep one night and suddenly finds himself wide awake, sitting in his living room. Across from him is a woman, maybe 4 feet tall, with light brown hair. At first glance, she could pass for a petite Asian woman. But something is wrong. The hair is clearly a wig, and the being beneath it is not human. Then a memory clicks into place. Years earlier, his wife had woken in the middle of the night to see a small figure with huge eyes standing at the foot of their bed. A calm voice in her mind had told her not to be afraid and to go back to sleep. She dismissed it as a dream. She was wrong. Now that same figure is sitting in Terry's living room, and he recognizes her. She is something between human and something else entirely. His first thought is oddly mundane. I don't like her wig. Her lips never move, but he hears her voice inside his head, amused. So you don't like my hair? It's the same as last time. I always wear it this way. You know that. And suddenly, like a dam bursting, memories pour through him. This is not his first meeting with her. He has been taken repeatedly, starting from the age of 8. He sees himself on a ship with other children in a space arranged like a daycare center, tasked with arranging colored blocks and tiles, or using their minds to move small objects, balls, cubes, testing their psychic gifts. Throughout it all, this same woman was present, watching over them, soothing them during painful medical procedures. Despite everything, Terry feels a strange, conflicted affection for her. Yes, Terry, I'm that woman. No, you won't be taken tonight. There will be no more examinations. I promise. She helps him access more buried memories. He sees a sprawling city on the far side of the moon, populated by humans who were born there, who have never set foot on Earth, mining and processing rocks. It's crucial work, she tells him. But her visit isn't about nostalgia. She's there to deliver a warning. His public statements and the book he's writing have caused concern among her hosts, as she calls them, beings who cooperate with the U.S. government. They are uneasy about what he might disclose. Terry wants to share his experiences, and she can sense that desire. You've seen things that are important to both your government and my hosts. You don't grasp the significance of your own memories, so you can't know which ones must remain hidden. Your government will not permit you to speak of these things. She spells out the consequences if he persists. When he tries to ask about the leg implants, she waves the question away. Her role here isn't to educate, it's to communicate a red line. The devices serve many purposes. The real concern is that their disclosure will validate your claims, and your government won't allow that. I can't erase your memories without hurting you, and I won't do that. But the implants in your leg, they will be removed. Terry pushes back. The world deserves the truth. Your government will not allow it. First, they'll try to discredit you. Then, they'll threaten you. If you persist, they will kill you. The words echo in his skull as the room blurs, and suddenly, it's morning. He is alone. When he gets another X-ray of his leg, the foreign objects are gone. Just 2 tiny wires remain where the devices had been. The petal-shaped implants and the microchip have vanished without a mark on his skin. No incision, no scar. For 40 years, his body held the proof. The moment he prepares to share it, the proof is taken. Now, let's talk about what this means. Countless people have come forward with stories of strange objects in their bodies, often linked to disturbing fragmented memories. Before you rush off to get an X-ray, think carefully. Alien abduction experiences don't always leave physical marks, but the psychological scars are very real. Most people who've been taken have no conscious memory of it. According to Terry Lovelace, those people are the lucky ones. Terry has been telling his story publicly since 2012, through interviews, speeches, and 2 books. Over time, his account has remained largely consistent. Skeptics note that certain details have emerged in later retellings, but Terry explains that as memories naturally resurfacing after decades of suppression. What makes his account hard to dismiss outright is the utterly ordinary life he led. He's a family man, a respected professional. He wasn't alone at Devil's Den either. His friend Toby was there. Except Toby is a pseudonym Terry used to shield the man's true identity. The real Toby passed away in 2007, leaving Terry as the sole keeper of the tale. Now let's take a look at this UFO sighting that's been making waves recently. A massive glowing UFO formation is developing directly over the city line at night. This is not fireworks and not military flares. We are witnessing something otherworldly. Look closely at the luminescent trails. There is no smoke, no exhaust. The light moves with a precise geometric pattern, forming a spiral-shaped craft just above the city landscape. A bright fluorescent light is circling the main vehicle, almost as if powering it or stabilizing its position. The craft is huge, glowing so intensely that thousands of people in the region are witnessing it in real time. So, what do you make of this UFO sighting? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more content.